The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to another GoldMine 101, our regular series of short presentations or little training sessions giving you hints and tips for getting the most out of GoldMine CRM. And this morning I'm going to cover the ordering, the sequence in which when you use the tab key when clicking into a contact record, the sequence, the order of the fields that you're going through, the tabbed order as it's called. Hello, my name is Tim Wilmot and my company, Wizard Systems. We are a specialist independent CRM systems supplier who help mainly small and mid-sized organizations improve their sales, productivity, marketing, and customer service through the use of simple and affordable software solutions like GoldMine. So this presentation will only be about 10 minutes or so. We're running these on a regular basis during this lockdown period on a weekly basis, covering little topics that you may not be too familiar with in GoldMine, just to keep your knowledge levels up and get the most out of the GoldMine system. Now, the audio part of this presentation is one way only. If you've got any questions, please type those into the question box. Be happy to answer any, those of you that are listening live, happy to answer any questions around this topic or indeed anything to do with GoldMine, no problem at all. Probably best to type them in as you think of them. At the end of the session, I'll give you a quick update on GoldMine product news. And this call is being recorded. After the presentation, you will get an email with a link to the recording, and it'll be up on our YouTube channel as well. If you go up to YouTube and just do a search for Wizard Systems, you'll find our channel there with different playlists of different categories of topics. Okay, just a quick mention about us for those of you that may not be too familiar with who we are. Wizard Systems, long-established GoldMine supplier, one of the top suppliers worldwide. We do anything about GoldMine, add-ons, any kind of support, implementation, training. We've got a permanently manned GoldMine support desk. Of course, we're working from home at the moment. All of us are working from home at the moment, but it's business as usual. If you've got any GoldMine query or question or issue, just please contact us through our support channels. Okay, let's get into tabbed orders then. So what I mean by tabbed order is if I click into a field, just move my mouse away there, but if I just now press my tab button on my keyboard, I'm advancing through the records in a certain sequence. All right, that is the tabbed order defined in the properties of those fields. To look at that, you need to normally be an administrator, but if I hold down the control key and double click on the field label, so this word source, for example, in black, just control and double left click, that will bring up a little tiny rectangle there, establishing that particular field that I'm about to edit. If I now just double click again in that box, I will then see the field properties. And on the layout tab, I've got the position there, which will normally, for a screen, it will start at 0, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, as you advance through these different fields, the next field will be 1, the field after that will be 2 and 3, and so on, through to the last field on your screen. So if you are using the tab key, it's a really handy way, really quick way of advancing in a natural sequence. You can actually force users to go in a different sequence. So maybe suddenly jumping from one panel to another panel is part of a process. Maybe you're guiding a user down through a lot of fields and you want them to you want them to enter the fields in a specific order. This is it. This is the way you control that entry there. You just basically overwrite it and pop in the new number there. So that's the tabbed order. If you ever notice as you go through your fields, again, let me move my cursor away. As I move through the fields there, Did you see? I jumped over, and if I press Shift and Tab, I can go up one field. If I press the Tab key again, I jumped over address line 2. There's obviously a little issue with my order, the number behind that field, which I'll rectify later on. So there we are. The order of fields, quite simple, really quick way of navigating your way using the Tab key. Yeah, of course you can use the cursor and click into those fields you want to, but sometimes it's nice for speed and some kind of a flow, and as I say, trying to force a user down through a particular sequence. It can be useful to know the tabbed order in the field properties of your fields. Make sure an administrator does this. Again, I would say make sure a backup is done if you're new to this concept of changing your field properties, because you can't undo. You have to just really go in and re-enter an entry that you might have changed. So just be careful amending that and make sure you are the administrator or a master user in GoldMine. Okay, so now for any questions you may have around this topic. I think there's only one so far from Kamal. Can you change the tabbed order on an activity screen? No, you can't. You can't do that. Now, if there are some important fields on an activity, maybe the activity code, for example, the way you categorize your activities, you can make that like a mandatory pop-up so the user could be directed to that field if they're trying to exit it. So there are sneaky ways of doing that, Kamal, but no, not this. This relates purely to if you look at your GoldMine screen, the top half of the screen is basically contact information. Okay, so it's the top half of the screen and the fields tab where you've defined any fields in there. Okay, there is another question from Jill. How can you keep the primary field in main view? I check main view box, but when closing GoldMine and coming back, it has changed back onto some or all fields to rule-based selection. I don't think that's a good question, Jill. I don't think I entirely understand that. I'll contact you back after the call. Otherwise, there might be a dialogue of us asking each other questions going through that. But a very good question. Thanks, Jill. So I don't think there's any more questions. I'll keep an eye on that as we go through, though, just to keep you up to date with latest news. GoldMine training for the time being, excuse me, is all online. So if you've got any requirement for extra knowledge on GoldMine or some new capability, please contact me or any of the team, and we can give you more information on what kind of training, but it will be delivered online to you wherever your colleagues are. It doesn't have to be just a one-to-one. It could be involving colleagues from your different home locations if you're in lockdown. Latest release, 2019.1 in May next month. We are expecting 2020. You must be on a GoldMine maintenance contract to get that. There's some new security capabilities coming into that as well. We're nearly at the end of April, but there are some promotions. If you are wanting to extend the number of GoldMine licenses you have, then there are some promotions. There's up to 15% off the cost of the software. Remember, with GoldMine, there's a one-off cost for buying the software. You own it. It will never expire. There is an annual maintenance scheme to get updates, but there are some promotions to be had. We've got a couple of days left for that. So any suggestions for future topics? I think we're going to be doing groups next week, so we'll do this on a weekly basis. Another question from Francis. Can you use the properties of the field to extend the characters allowed? Yes, you can. Two things there, Francis. There's the display of the field data, You'll see that in the field properties box, and also deep down in the database, the width of the field as well. So for example, some of the fields I was showing you, maybe 20, 30, 40 characters long. You can't change those system fields, but the fields you create yourself, you can create your own custom fields in GoldMine. You can't really touch the system fields. That's a bit of a no-no. But yeah, there's two things. There's the width of the data, how many characters, and then when it's placed, when you view it on the screen, what's the width of the display? Sometimes it could be a little bit shorter than the true length of the field, and the user just kind of scrolls through if you're a little bit tight for space on the screen. So hopefully that answers your question there. So I don't think there's any more questions. There's a few ways of contacting us. I should have put our YouTube up there as well, but YouTube is just simply YouTube / Wizard Systems, or just do a search for Wizard Systems. You'll see all our previous GoldMine videos up there in a GoldMine playlist. But happy to speak with you. Any question about GoldMine, please come to us at Wizard Systems. My name again is Tim Wilmot. Company is Wizard Systems. Thanks very much for your time this morning. Simon, I'll answer your question by email separately. Thanks very much for that. Thanks everyone for attending live. Look out for the recording, or pop up to YouTube and you'll see all the other stuff there. Hopefully catch up with you next week. Cheers. Bye-bye.